Been asked a brilliant question by one of my subscribers, which basically stated, if I had my time again as an amateur gold prospector, what would be the things that I would change so I would have more success earlier when it comes to gold prospecting? The first thing that I wish I had known about was that no one knows where the gold is, they only know where the gold was. And simply put, this just means that if you know where the gold is, you're probably working that spot and you're unlikely to tell someone, especially a random stranger online or even in real life, where the gold actually is. And if I had known this, it would have made researching areas a hell of a lot more simple. All you have to do is go online and find out where the gold was, whether that's historical gold rushes, people on YouTube currently mining regions. I know there's several claim registries, there's old newspaper reports, there's so many ways you could research. Because that would have saved me a lot of time listening to the tall tales that all gold prospectors have, much like fishermen, where they talk about, oh, the fish was this big. Every gold prospector's got a story that's like, oh, I found this much gold over in that region. And you're always thinking, well, where? Well, they don't know, and you won't know until you do your research. So no one knows where the gold is, they only know where it was. And on the note of tall tales, that's the other thing. All gold prospectors seem to have the big tall tales. It's important to listen to them because it can inspire you to get out there and go and do it. But more importantly, don't think that that is the average day that these prospectors have out on the creek. So my second piece of advice is don't listen to the tall tales. They are the exception to the rule, not the rule. Listening to the tall tales can be inspiring, but can also be incredibly disheartening if it creates a situation where your expectations are higher than what the reality of the ground is going to give you on an average day. And there's no faster way to give up hope than having those extraordinarily high expectations. Learn your ground yourself. Go out there with a pan or a metal detector, see what comes out of the ground, and you'll soon understand what the ground is going to give you on an average day. And occasionally, you might have one of your own exceptional tall tale days yourself that you can celebrate. High bankers ain't shit. When I first started, I was convinced myself that, if I could just get a unit like this that could move more dirt, I could find more gold, and that's simply not the case. My third rule is basically understand the proper application of the tools that you're using. I used to be really captivated by the idea that if I could get a high banker and move more dirt, I would end up with more gold. And whilst this is true, it comes within context. If you use that tool in the wrong spot, you're not going to walk away with more gold. You're just going to walk away tired with a small amount of gold. Probably more gold than you would have got if you were just panning, but still not a lot of gold. High bankers aren't going to get you more gold because gold comes out of the ground. It doesn't come from the shop where you buy your machinery. Instead of concentrating on trying to get more yardage, concentrate on building your skill level up so you understand where that tool is appropriate. Do I have enough cubic meters of soil to warrant dragging the pump, the hoses, the high banker, setting it up and spending all that energy to work the ground? Or am I better off just coming out here with, say, my gold pan or a small river sluice and working through the half meter of dirt that I've got in front of me? Understanding that difference is going to save you a lot of time, energy, and money. And hopefully, ultimately, put you in a position that when you do break one of those machines out, you're going to walk away with a lot more gold. Number 4 or 5, I can't remember. Stop concentrating on how much gold you're losing. Every single piece of equipment you have ever used, pan, sluice, metal detector, river sluice, divining rods, whatever it might be, has lost you gold. I guarantee it. But it's not the loss rate you should be concentrating on. What you should be concentrating on is your maximal efficiency rate. But Chris, what is a maximal efficiency rate? Well, think of it like this. I can dig a pan's worth of dirt out of the ground and wash it down to just enough concentrates where I can suck it up with a snuffer bottle in about 3 minutes. And I lose somewhere between 5 and 3% of the gold every single pan that I do. So at the upper end, that means every 20 pans that I do, I lose 1 pan's worth of gold from that spot. 20 pans would take me about 3 hours. You got to consider that it only takes me 3 minutes to do 1 pan, but there's also breaks and you're walking around. There's other stuff that happens in between it, right? Not just washing a dish. So in a 6-hour day, I should be able to do, theoretically, maybe about 40 pans at the upper end. and I retain about 38 pans worth of gold. If I slowed down so I could capture that extra 5%, I may add an extra minute onto my pan, or 25% extra time. So suddenly we're at a 9-hour day to get the same amount of pans done, to only net benefit 2 extra pans worth of gold. Whereas if I speed up and I'm willing to lose 5% of my gold, because that seems to be my happy medium where I can retain most of my gold and get through the pans quite quickly, it means I can do the same amount of pans in 3 hours less time. In other words, I get more pans per day by giving up 2 pans worth of gold, which means that I net more gold total. So that's my net efficiency. Tip number 5 would be to always take the opportunity to explore new ground over known ground. If you know where the gold roughly is in ground that you've been working for a while and you have the opportunity to go somewhere else and try a new spot, go and try that new spot, because you know where you can go and get gold later that day if you strike out in the other spot. But if you don't test that other spot, you will not know if there's gold in it. And it took me a long time to understand that walking away from known deposits to hunt for unknown deposits can have massive payouts. And the last tip is sharing is caring. If you have a group of friends that you trust implicitly, and I think this is important in the gold game especially because gold makes people do really stupid things, is if you have a group of friends or family that you really trust and you really like, take them to your spots, show them a good time, and be generous with the ground that you've discovered, because that should be reciprocated if they're your true friends. It means that as a group, as a prospecting group, you're going to end up finding more gold together than you will as an individual. Because the people that you share your generosity with are going to then share their generosity with you. And that means you're going to get taken to ground that you may not have known about before. Hopefully some of these tips have given you some insight into your own prospecting. If they have, let me know down below. And what would you suggest if you had your time again to start prospecting? If you could go back in time with a time machine, I want to know what you would do differently.